Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we've got a fantastic stack of sources in front of us. We're looking at literary critiques, academic summaries, and even some actual travel guides.
And they all center on one book, Emily Henry's #1 bestseller, People We Meet on Vacation.
Right. And our mission today is to really get under the hood of why this book worked so well for so many people. I mean, it got slapped with that beach read label, which is fine.
But the sources suggest there's, so much more going on. We're talking about some real structural genius and a very deep emotional resonance.
Exactly. We want to go beyond the surface and look at how Henry uses that classic friends to lovers trope, a really tricky dual timeline, and this surprising focus on personal growth to get to that final connection.
So to set the scene, you've got these two main characters. First, there's Poppy, right?
The wild child. She's a travel writer living in New York City, always chasing that next adventure. Total wanderlust.
And then you have Alex Nilsson. He is her complete opposite. He's this buttoned-up, super reliable homebody.
He wears khakis. He lives in their tiny Ohio hometown, Linfield. He's basically the anchor to her balloon, I guess.
A great way to put it. And their whole friendship is built on this one ritual. For 10 years, they took one glorious summer trip together.
Until they didn't. 2 years ago, they went to Croatia and something happened. The book just says they ruined everything and they stopped speaking.
So the story picks up with Poppy, who's realizing her glamorous NYC life feels kind of empty. The last time she was truly happy was with Alex. So she decides to try and fix it all with one last, very awkward vacation to Palm Springs.
And that tension is what drives the whole thing, which I think brings us right to our first part.
Yeah.
Deconstructing that famous slow burn structure.
Yeah. The sources kept bringing up this one phrase for Emily Henry. They call her a pragmatic romantic.
Okay, a pragmatic romantic. What does that actually mean in, the context of a contemporary romance?
It's about intent. So a pragmatic romantic uses all the tropes we know and love friends to lovers, forced proximity, all that yearning. But they ground it in reality.
So the characters aren't these, perfect aspirational figures.
Exactly. Poppy and Alex are deeply flawed. They're confused. They're messy. Henry puts them in scenarios that are designed to feel, as one source put it, 100% real. The struggle is the story.
That makes sense. It grounds the fantasy a bit. And Henry herself said the book is an homage to When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, a direct homage. She's following two people over a decade, right?
Yeah.
Showing how desire builds over time, which is just, it's the total opposite of our modern need for, instantaneous gratification.
You have to wait for it. And the way she makes us wait is through this structure that the critics all pointed to, the dual timeline.
Yes. The book is constantly switching between past summer trips and the present summer trip.
So you get these flashbacks to their history, starting from their first car share in college, all the way up to that disastrous Croatia trip. And then it cuts back to the present.
To this awful, hot, uncomfortable trip in Palm Springs where they're trying to reconnect.
And that contrast is everything, isn't it?
It's the engine of the whole narrative. The past is this, perfect highlight reel. Golden moments, inside jokes, perfect chemistry. But the present is just awkward and failing.
So while you're watching them struggle now, you're also being shown exactly what they lost.
Exactly. It raises the tension and the stakes because you, the listener, you feel the weight of their history right alongside their current pain. It's so effective.
If it had been linear, I don't think that final conflict would have hit as hard.
Yeah,
or the resolution, for that matter.
One analysis I read argued that this kind of non-linear structure is almost required for a good friends to lovers story. Because falling in love like that is slow. It's built on memory and trust.
Jake, rush it.
And the dual timeline literally stops the narrative from moving too fast. It forces you to appreciate the journey.
Which, of course, only works if the characters themselves are compelling. And their dynamic of opposites is, I think, where we should go next. Part 2.
Oh, they're the definition of that trope. He's the tall, serious honor student with an MFA. She's the short, adventurous college dropout.
He's control, she's chaos. But the sources all agree when they're together that stoic exterior he has just melts away.
It really does. They feel complete. One source used this analogy of a puzzle with two pieces. They are more themselves, more open and honest with each other than with anyone.
I love the way the book frames it. Poppy calls his unguarded side naked Alex or weird Alex.
And that's essential because that unguarded space is where they reveal their deepest vulnerabilities, the things that are holding them back as adults.
Right, like Alex's stoicism. It's not just a personality trait. It's rooted in some pretty serious trauma.
His mother died when he was only 6. And he was the eldest brother, so he had to step up and take on all this responsibility, especially because his father was so fragile after the loss.
So he just learned to contain everything, to manage emotions.
Mm-hmm. And Poppy's wanderlust, her constant need to travel, that's also a trauma response.
She was bullied in their hometown in Linfield for her family being eccentric. So for her, staying put equals pain and running away means safety.
So you have these two people who are, like you said, two halves of a wounded whole. They admit they're only not lonely when they're together.
Which leads to the big question, right? If they're so perfect for each other, why did they let 2 years of silence happen? It can feel a little convenient, dramatically.
That's a fair critique. And the books address it by framing the silence not as an external plot device, but as internal fear. A deep, deep fear.
Poppy is terrified of ruining the one perfect relationship she has, so she keeps him at arm's length. She dates these other adventure boyfriends who don't really get her.
And Alex puts her in this box labeled friend and refuses to touch it. He gets into a relationship with Sarah Torval, who is deeply jealous of Poppy.
Because he's just as scared of losing her as she is.
It's a mutual, paralyzing fear, and that fear is what finally explodes in Croatia, which I think brings us to part 3, the core conflict.
Okay, so the big moment, that drunken kiss in Croatia. But the sources are clear. The kiss itself wasn't the problem.
No, the tragedy was the miscommunication after the kiss.
This is that classic dramatic irony.
It is. They both woke up the next day completely convinced that the other person regretted it. Alex thought Poppy was brushing it off, and Poppy thought Alex was horrified.
And the feeling of rejection was so intense for both of them that they chose 2 years of silence over one single vulnerable conversation.
That's it right there, the avoidance of vulnerability. So fast forward to the present day, to this Palm Springs trip, and everything is going wrong. It's hot, the AC is broken, it's a mess.
And that chaos finally forces the confrontation. Alex breaks. He tells her they can't go back to the way things were. Something has to change.
And this is where the analysis points to the book's biggest strength, what they call the personal growth dimension.
This is the big departure from the When Harry Met Sally model.
A crucial departure. In that movie, the focus is on the dynamic between them changing over time. Here, Emily Henry insists that the focus has to be on the individuals healing themselves first.
They can't be in a healthy relationship until they deal with their own issues, which is why, even after they finally sleep together,
A moment that's like 10 years in the making.
the relationship stalls. Again.
It stalls because Poppy immediately panics and self-sabotages. She tells Alex that she was miserable in her life and this trip was just a break from reality.
Oof. And for Alex, whose biggest fear is being, disposable, he takes that in the worst possible way.
He hears, "You're not my life, you're just my vacation." He thinks he's a fling, an escape.
And that forces them apart again, but this time it's different. This time it's the catalyst for real change.
It is. Poppy goes back to New York and starts therapy. She finally confronts her fear of intimacy, her need to run. She realizes she kept Alex as a vacation friend on purpose to protect herself from ever having to commit to a life relationship.
And Alex has to do his own work. When Poppy finally goes to Linfield to confront him, he admits his deepest fear.
That because of his mom's death, he's terrified of happiness. He thinks if he lets himself be truly happy, it'll just be taken away from him again.
So it's only when they both face those core wounds that they can actually move forward. And they don't just, ride off into the sunset.
No, they choose to embrace uncertainty. They decide to test out a life together, splitting their time between New York and Linfield.
Which is such a perfect bridge to our next section, part 4. Because in this book, travel isn't just a backdrop, it's practically a character.
It's the entire structure of their relationship. The annual summer trip was their language. And it's interesting, the sources show this book has actually inspired a ton of real-world travel, especially to Croatia.
Okay, so let's break that down, because the specific locations in Croatia seem to mirror their emotional journey. It's not just a random travel log.
Not at all. It starts in Dubrovnik. The book calls it the romantic meet-cute city, old town, marble streets, the Buja bar carved into the cliffs. It's all very polished and perfect, just like the idealized version of their friendship at that point.
And then they go to Hvar,
Yeah.
which is described as the summer montage destination.
Yes. Beach reads, hidden coves, rooftop bars. It's pure escapism. It represents that period where they were trying to just have fun and ignore the tension building underneath.
Until Split, the plot twist city.
Right. And Split itself is this chaotic mix of ancient Roman history with this really vibrant modern energy. That clash of old and new perfectly mirrors their relationship finally falling apart in this very unexpected, chaotic way.
And after the explosion, there's Korchula, the quiet chapter.
A beautiful, quiet island. Medieval town, clear water. It's the place for reflection, for the pause you need after the chaos, before you can even think about resolution.
The locations are emotional stages. I love that. And from all their trips, the sources kind of distilled a Poppy and Alex travel philosophy.
Yeah, a few key takeaways for you if you're planning a trip. First, plan for unplanned moments. Don't schedule everything.
Second, say yes to the ridiculous. The impromptu swims, the matching hats. Embrace it.
And third, pick a trip soundtrack to really lock in the memory. It's basically about embracing the same chaos and spontaneity in travel that they finally had to embrace in their own relationship.
So let's try to synthesize all this. We started with what looked like a simple beach read, but what we found was this piece of, brilliant structural engineering, the dual timeline.
And that structure was all in service of earning the slow burn of a friends to lovers story. But the biggest takeaway, I think, is that Henry insisted that personal growth had to come first.
Poppy had to deal with her fear of being rooted. Alex had to deal with his fear of loss. They had to become whole people before they could be a whole couple.
That's the pragmatic romance right there.
Speaking of which, there's a fun little Easter egg for Emily Henry fans. Some readers think this book is stronger than her previous one, Beach Read, a little more focused.
Right, it avoids some of the messier external storylines. And Henry gives this great little nod to her own universe. During that awful Palm Springs trip, Alex is at the pool and he's reading a book by Gus.
Gus, the author hero from Beach Read.
The very same. It's a nice little wink that connects her world of flawed but ultimately redeemable romantic characters.
I love that. Okay, so that brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mingle on. Alex's biggest fear was being just a vacation fling for Poppy, a temporary escape.
But their final decision isn't for him to move to New York or for her to move to Linfield. They decide to build a life by trying to live in both places.
So if a vacation relationship is about escape and a kind of idealized perfection, what does their choice to embrace both love and geographical uncertainty suggest about the true, messy difference between a temporary vacation relationship and a permanent real-life one?
Something to think about. We'll leave you with that.